Welcome to the About Sex podcast. I'm your host, Angela Skirtu, and you can find me at www.aboutsexpodcast.com, or you can find me also at www.therapistinstlouis.com. Now, today I have with me Mrs. Diana Indries. Hey, Diana, is that how I say your last name?
Yes, actually, yes. You're one of the very few people who actually got it right the first time.
Oh, really? Well, good for me. Hey. Well, so tell us a little about yourself. What do you do?
Well, right now I am working on this project I have started together with my husband, Robert. I've actually gave up my normal day job that I had before in administration to be able to focus on this project we have started because we think it's quite amazing and it can help so many people, but it still needs a lot of work and at least one full time person. So this is my main focus right now, the Better Topics project.
Well, tell us more about Better Topics.
Well, it's essentially a card game that helps people communicate with each other, like helps couples communicate, and also in a fun way. Because both me and my husband, we love board games and card games, like a lot of games, and we did buy a lot of them, and we found some that they call it couple games, but once we bought them we just realized most of them were like one-off questions that you can ask your partner, and then basically you can give the cards away because you played it, and it's not even that much of a game. So what we said is, let's actually transform this into repeatable questions that actually can be played. So we worked on it. We did a lot of research, to see what's out there and how can we make our game really good and appealing to people, and also that can help them. So we have came up with like a set of rules as well within our game, and we have a lot of game features as well in it. Like we have modifiers where you can cancel the question or reverse the question if it's a very good question and you would like your partner to answer, or you have like a joker question as well where you can ask anything. And we have a base deck that has 56 questions, and then alongside it has like modifiers, and it can be played like most card games where you can strategize and you can win it, and whoever wins the game, they get to actually pick a reward from our rewards deck, and the partner needs to fulfill whatever the chosen reward is.
What kind of rewards could somebody get?
Well, we have about 22 rewards right now, and they all differ from a 20-minute foot massage to breakfast in bed or anything like this that most couples can do without too much of a hassle, but just to focus on their relationship and to do things for each other.
All right, now before we get into this next conversation, I just want to stop to give us a word from our new sponsors. So I am now working with a really cool company called Let's Get Checked. You can find them at trilgc.com/staykinky. What's really cool about this company actually is that they're doing testosterone testing for men and hormone checks for men and women. A lot of people are struggling with hormonal imbalances and reduced testosterone levels, which really can impact your sex life. And so more and more men and women are trying to test their hormone levels to see how they're doing. 1 in 4 men over 30 are actually low in testosterone. Symptoms you might want to look at include fatigue, erectile dysfunction, low sex drive, anxiety, brain fog, even having a hard time making decisions, which is basically most of my client population. Just teasing. But I mean, enough of you who come see me are actually really struggling with testosterone levels and your sex drive. So what's cool about this group scope is you can pick from either a male hormone test kit, a female hormone test kit, or an STD test kit. And what's really cool is they send it right to you in your home. You do what you need to do to take the test. And depending on what test you use, you'll either have to do a blood sample or a blood sample and a urine sample. And then you send it back and everything's completely confidential. And basically, they deliver it to your home, they collect your sample, they review your results for you. So depending on what happens with your test, they may provide a prescription in some cases. Usually it would only be for something like if they're treating STDs. If you do end up having something longer term like hormone therapy, then you'll likely be referred to a longer term provider. But at least you'll know where you stand. So it's really cool. Your results are available and they'll be reviewed by a physician. And then a nurse will contact you for a consultation over the phone. The Let's Get Checked laboratories are CLIA approved and everything is completely anonymous. So again, that website is trylgc.com/staykinky and use the coupon code STAYKINKY to get 20% off. So I've played some of those games and I would say, a lot of those questions do feel like, okay, I already asked it, so I'm done. So what is it about your questions that kind of make them more interesting or able to revisit?
Well, we have a lot of very interesting questions, and there are like different grade of difficulty, if you like. We have like easier questions, and we have like more difficult questions as well. Like, when was it that you needed me most last week and I wasn't there? Questions like these, or easier questions like, what was a fun thing that happened to you this week? And that makes you revisit all the fun things during the week and then just pick one and talk about it. Because basically these questions are to initiate discussion between partners. So we have a lot of questions. We also have questions like, what would you like most now, cuddling or sex? So the questions vary a lot, and basically it should start a discussion between partners. And these questions are so repeatable, people can actually play them at least once a week. Because they have questions like, focusing on the past week, what was good that happened, what was bad that happened, when did you need your partner most, when you actually wanted some, alone time and your partner didn't give you that space. And then focusing on the future as well. Where would you like to go out next week? Who is it that you want to reach out to next week? What is it that, I've done something recently and you would like me to do it or say it, in a different way. So a lot of things, that people, I think, should discuss more of these days, and somehow they tend not to.
I have to agree with you. I think that there are a lot of people who are missing some of these deeper questions on a regular basis in their relationships. They'll talk about the day-to-day stuff they need to do, like chores or where do we need the kids to be in this day or this other day. But yeah, those sound like more impactful questions and absolutely questions that can be repeated. When you were doing your research, did you find, what did you find out about couples and how they were talking or not talking to each other? I'm really curious.
Well, that's the thing, you see, because I'm quite fortunate to have a husband who is quite involved in our relationship, and he follows my cues quite a lot, which is amazing. But even so, we still have to have the discussions, and it doesn't matter how difficult it is. The more difficult a topic is, the more we know we actually need to discuss it, because before it actually becomes a problem. But we understand that not many people are like that, because we see a lot of couples, within our friends groups as well and family as well. People would have greater relationships if they would just talk. We have so many friends that used to come to us separately, with their problems and issues they have in their relationship. And many times I would tell my friends, I'm like, yes, but these are things you should discuss with your partner. Why don't you tell him this? You like this, or you don't like that, or you want this, or you don't want that. And overall, we found that, as you said as well, because of chores and day-to-day life and kids as well and everything, people miss the focus on the relationship. So, and in our research as well, we focused a lot of, what's out there that can actually help people communicate more. And as I mentioned before, the cards that we found on the market right now, most of them just focus on, one-off questions. And especially if someone is in a relationship for years, things like what's your favorite color might not be so interesting anymore. Or things like what's your favorite flavor of ice cream, they might already know. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to focus on bringing the discussion to the back to the present somehow, like focusing on the past week maybe or past month, but not that much beyond that. I mean, we do have some questions that focus like, on a good memory from your childhood, just to lighten up the atmosphere and make you focus on positive things rather than always being focused on the negative. So, but mostly keeping the discussion on, current things, like what's happening now, what do you want to do next? Because, in a relationship, the more time goes by, we tend to evolve. And in a relationship especially, I believe it's important to, keep the conversation going so the partners evolve together. Because if they fail to do that before they know it, one partner evolved in one direction and the other one in another direction, and 10 years later they feel they don't know each other because they ended up wanting different things in the end, which is normal because we evolve. But then if you have the discussion with your partner, you know which way you're going and what's happening basically.
That's so smart, Diana, actually, because I feel like that's exactly what's happening with couples in relationships is that they're just not having questions about how they're changing or evolving as people. Like we're evolving every day and we want different things. And I think the big reason why a lot of couples won't talk is they're worried about what their partner will think. It's like anxiety about it. Like what if he gets mad at me, or what if he wants something different? The reality is, if couples are talking about these topics on a regular basis, they can evolve together, or they can even resolve things together. Maybe he doesn't want the same thing you want, but he can find a way to support you in what you're working towards, as an example. So what have you been studying, like when people are playing your card game? What are they saying about it? Getting, I guess, reviews?
We had most of our friends, I would say, playing the cards. So we had a lot of honest feedback because we have the type of friends that are not holding back, like they're not trying to be too nice and not offend us. They actually told us what they thought about the games. And most of people who actually saw the games and the questions, they were really blown away of, how in depth can you play the game? Like, as I said, you have like lighter questions, but then you have some more deeper questions as well. And the only negative feedback we actually got was, one couple actually said that they find it difficult to discuss certain things, like certain questions. They found them a bit too in depth and they were not comfortable enough to share that much. And to that I told them, like, look, we have over 50 something questions. You can take out the very difficult ones and keep them aside, and then just start playing the lighter questions until you get used to it, used to playing the game and used to getting into the habit of having a conversation with your partner, even if it's a lighter conversation. And then at a later date, you can reintroduce those. So, you can take a gradual step basically into having the deep conversations. But other than that, people really love the game and we had amazing support so far. And we also had a Kickstarter campaign that just ended a few weeks ago. And it was fully funded because people that saw the game, they were really blown away and they just loved it basically.
So how do people get the game?
Well, right now, we are literally in the process of just signing off the last modifications on our website, and it will soon be available on our website to get the game, basically.
Okay, well, that's good. And so just for people listening, that's www.bettertopics.com, correct? That's the website?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Okay, cool. What kind of drew you and your husband into this project? Because, I mean, are you guys therapists, or were you just like, people need to talk?
Yes, well, we are not therapists, funny enough. We come from different backgrounds. I have a background in law, and my husband has in IT and business and marketing. But interestingly enough, in both our backgrounds, we are used to speaking, and we early on figured out that in law as well and in legal procedures as well, you need to talk and you need to, give as much information as you want. And we always saw the difference between, when people actually talk and they give all the details necessary to anything, that's going on, whether it's a business or a law proceedings or whatever it is, and versus the times when people don't talk and they withhold information because they think it might hurt people, but in the end they just hurt themselves. And we've seen this in our close friends as well, who, separately they are great people, but together they are not so happy in their relationship purely because they do not talk to each other. So, also I mean, everything tied together when I felt I needed a career change, because I looked at my husband and he's very passionate of what he's doing and extremely driven. And I told him, like, I would love to have that passion in doing anything. Like, seeing him being excited every morning, waking up very early, getting to work because he was so excited to do, new stuff and all the amazing things that he's doing. So we did a lot of brainstorming, and what could I do? What am I passionate about? And according to him, I'm really passionate, and I'm really good at keeping our relationship, growing, and investing a lot in our relationship. So I said, okay, but then how can I help people with that? So then we came up, because we also like board games and card games in general, we came up with the idea of a game for couples. And then we said, okay, what is one problem that, couples face generally everywhere? And the main, the number one problem that most of them have is communication. I mean, if they would work on their communication together, it would solve so many other issues that they have in their relationship. So that's why we figured out, if we do that, how can we make it fun? Because we don't want to, ask people to have another chore in their life. I mean, everyone is busy. We have jobs, we have lives, we have family, maybe kids. So, if you tell them, oh, you have to sit down and talk with your partner for like an hour a week, it might seem another chore. It might seem another thing on their to-do list. Also, some people, when they are told, oh, we need to talk, they just tend to shut down and get very defensive. So we wanted to bypass that defensiveness. So that's why we actually, put a lot of thought into it, how to make it a fun game, and to have like lighter questions in it, and then deeper ones as well, so they can alternate. And then actually to make people want to play the game regularly, because once they play it a couple of times at least, they will see improvements in their relationship, and then they will want to play it even more because they see, it actually is worth talking and having the discussions because things improve.
Why do you think that people really struggle with communicating?
So I think there are many reasons why people actually struggle. There can be anything from, as you said earlier, they might feel judged if they have certain opinions and they're not the same as their partners. Or maybe they've never been taught in their families to actually open up and discuss their feelings and, be open about what they actually want.
So do you and your husband play the game too?
Yeah. That's how we actually perfected it, by playing it ourselves, and the questions as well, because we came up with a set of questions, and then with the modifiers, and then because we have like modifiers like extra questions, like you ask the main question, and then you have like why or when or with whom, and then you can ask for more details. And as we were playing it, we found certain things that we could improve, so we just did that. Basically, by playing it, we started improving it, and then we thought of how can people in different situations actually ask this question, how can they answer it, and what answers we gave, basically.
I got you. So you learned and perfected it.
Yes.
That makes sense. So how many times do you think you've played it?
Oh my god. Well, a lot of times, really, because we have actually started it about a year and a half ago, working on this game. And I would say we were playing it since we started, at least couple of times a month minimum. Like we had times where we played it once or twice a week, or we had times when we played it every other week, depending, on whatever else came up in our life at that point. But we played it quite a lot of times, to the point that now when we're traveling together, whether we're in a car or wherever, we know the questions and we just ask each other the questions without even having the cards at hand.
I was curious if you ever got bored of it or if it just became a part of you. But it sounds like it's just a great way for you guys to have a conversation.
Yes, purely because the questions are repeatable. So because there are questions about things that happened over the past week, things that things that we want to do, in the future. You can actually ask those questions quite often. It's you cannot really get bored of them, I think. I mean, we haven't, so I hope people won't either. But yeah, I mean, because every week the answers will change, more or less,
I gotcha. So anyhow, what we were talking about earlier that I do want to kind of circle back to was just what were some of the challenges that you found that people had with communicating? And so one thing you said earlier that was really interesting is one couple was a little uncomfortable with some of the questions. And I was curious if you think some people might just be uncomfortable with certain topics because they're not used to talking that way, like in that depth. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm sure that is the case with many couples because it depends a lot on what type of personality they have and their background and all of these things. And if they're not used to sharing their feelings, especially, they might find it a bit unusual in the beginning to actually start and opening up and discuss. But this is why we actually have different type of questions. We have easier ones, more fun ones, and we have deeper ones as well, so they can alternate between them. Also, in our main deck, we offer 6 custom cards, which basically people can use to write on them their questions. If there are any questions they want to ask their partner on a regular basis and we haven't covered them, or use them as rewards. So, the game, it's not just that you can actually take out questions and just use the ones that you like. You can also customize it depending on what the dynamic is in your relationship.
So is there any, for anybody who's kind of curious about this, is there anything you'd want to share with them? I don't know, kind of like a hook or like just in case you're questioning, here's why you really should grab my game.
It is because it puts the fun in the conversation, in having the conversation with your partner. It takes out the chore part of it. And you don't need to focus too much on it, really. If you play this game at least 1 hour a week, then you will definitely see a lot of improvements in your relationship. So our main goal was to actually make it, short, fun, but to also reach that point where people actually have deep conversations in their relationship. So it's basically a game that pays back in improving someone's relationship.
I see. So if you want your relationship better, then this would definitely be a great way to do it so that it doesn't feel like it's too much work.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, do you have any final thoughts you want to add, or do you want to just give a plug?
Well, for anyone who is interested, we also have a YouTube channel where we have more details about the game and how it is played. And they actually can see me and my husband playing it, because I think that's the best way to explain, how the game actually works. And for anyone who wants to get the game, it will soon be available on our website, which is, as you mentioned earlier, www.bettertopics.com.
All right. Well, thank you, Diana, for joining me today. And this has been Angela Skirtu. You can find me at www.aboutsexpodcast.com or at www.therapistinstlouis.com. Thank you again, Diana, for joining me, and stay kinky, St. Louis.